In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make indie pop music. And to do that, I remade a very popular song called Undressed by Sombr. And I'll break down my remake of the song's elements, the sounds of those elements, the mixing, the structure and arrangement, all that jazz. So hopefully by the end of this tutorial, you can make a song in a similar indie pop style to this one. Set the tempo around 115 to 120 BPM. Start off by making some very powerful chords. This is a very easily repeatable chord progression over here. It's the same thing, just copy and paste it twice. And the chords themselves are very short, very simple, nothing too crazy going on over here. Just the same thing repeated twice with a mixture of piano sounds, this one that I used over here from Flex, and a couple guitar sounds over here, all from Flex as well. We got this one down here, and last but not least, this one as well. So these guitar chords over here really help drive that indie pop rock type vibe. It helps fill up the mix with a very guitar driven sound. And then the piano up here is really just to help the impact of the chords, help the amplification of the chords. When you combine it with the guitars, it's a lot more hard hitting. And for the mixing, I put this EQ on here, taking out a great chunk of the lows, just because we're going to make a very prominent rolling bass line later, and we don't want the unneeded lows of these chords to counteract with that bass line and make it sound all weird and gross and muddy in the mix. And then this one's a little bit lower than the rest of them just because it was peaking here on the heat map. So I just brought it down a little bit. And then this one was a little bit lacking on the heat map. So I brought it up a little bit. And you're welcome to do that for any frequency that you feel is not enough color on the heat map or too much color on the heat map, respectively. And then just a stereo shaper over here just because originally I felt like the sound was a little too narrow. It helps really boost up the wideness of the sound and make it a lot better to fit in the mix. Next, take the bass notes of these chords and put them into some bass presets. And by the bass notes, I just mean like the root notes of what these chords actually are. So for example, if this is an A chord over here, you're going to want to get an A for the bass note. And if this is a G chord over here, you're going to want to have a G for the bass note. And you want to do that for all the chords that we created over here and slap it into some realistic bass sounding presets. As you can hear, I aimed for a lot of natural, realistic sounding acoustic and electric bass guitars. So we have this one over here from Flex. We have another one down here from Flex. And honestly, I feel like this whole song was just created using Flex presets because we have another bass preset from Flex. This is like a picked electric bass. This is more of like a gritty acoustic sounding bass. And then this is almost like a bass violin over here. Like an upright bass, which it is called on the preset. And together it all makes a great powerful guitar bass sound. You want as realistic as possible and like as acoustic and natural as possible to give it that authentic indie vibe. And for the mixing, all I did is I put some distortion on here using a Fruity Blit overdrive with the main knob turned up about like a quarter of the way, just so that we get a distorted edge to these bass sounds and we can really hear it. To get a more indie vibe, we really want to hone in on that distorted bass guitar sound. So that's what this Fruity Blit overdrive does over here as well. Next, take the same bass line and put it into a string preset. It's the same pattern. I just took this note and brought it up to another octave up here just because it sounded better. I don't know, you can experiment with whatever you want, but that it just sounded better to me. The purpose of this string over here, this preset from Flex, I don't know but the purpose of the string is just to fill up the background of the mix, make it sound a little more full. For the mixing, I took out a great chunk of the lows, same reason from earlier, and then boosted a little bit of the highs over here as well, just to give it some extra high-end crispiness in the mix. Next, make a little Pluck Melody to go in the background. This is just to add some extra variance in the background of the mix, make it seem a little more interesting, give your ears a little bit of ear candy. And the way you can make a melody like this is just by going from the notes from the chords, picking some notes that you find here and there, and just experimenting around with little top melodies that you could put on top of the chords. And this one uses a synth Pluck preset from Flex. And for the mixing, I just put a ton of reverb on here with these settings over here with the wet higher than the dry, just because we really want this to be a background sound. We want it to really expand in the background as well without it sounding too muddy in the mix. This is without the reverb, and then this is with the reverb. Does a lot of heavy lifting. Now for the drums. You're gonna want a kick over here. Aim for like a loud crashing acoustic sort of kick, and then a snare. Aim for the most acoustic, natural sounding snare that you could possibly find. Having realistic drum samples can elevate this indie vibe. And then a background hi-hat. Make sure it's very airy and wide in the mix, and make it very quiet as well. I toned down this volume a lot. And then just a ride sample as well. And putting it all together. You can hear the kicks and the snares a lot more on top. The reason for how that came to be is this Fruity Blood overdrive on here, adding a lot of amplification to the sound. We're not looking for distortion here, we just want a lot of amplification. In the mix, it's already going to sound a little distorted just because they're more realistic and more acoustic sounds. So all we need is some volume amplification, and that'll do the trick. Now for some extra guitar effects, I just have a guitar loop over here that I just chopped up of a chugging guitar. This is just a splice sample over here. It kind of follows the chords, but not really. All you need is that guitar texture, that chugging texture in the mix, just to give it a more indie rock type feel. I have a chugging effects loop over here. And together, the two of them make this. It really sounds like you're scraping a guitar over here. Now for the structure and arrangement of this track, I split the track up over here into two main parts. First you have like a verse or pre-chorus or whatever, and then you have the full chorus over here. So for the verse or pre-chorus, obviously you want your vocals going, but then you also want to introduce the chorus elements. So I just started with the drums, the exact same drum loop that we made over here, with the bass as well. Kind of not a lot going on so that you can have the vocals shine through. And then for the chorus, you just want everything all at once. You have the melody, you have the chords, you have the background string, you have the guitar effects, the bass, and the full drum loop as well. This is what the full structure of the track looks like over here. And after all that, here's the final result.
You're saying to me what you're saying to me, but the glimmer in your eyes is telling me other things. I don't wanna get undressed for a new person all over again. I don't wanna kiss someone else's neck and have to pretend it's yours instead.
This is by far the best merchandise that I could ever ask to sell. It's made to order, it's affordably priced, and it just looks freaking stylish as well. So go to bonfire.com/shop/BushaZ